Broadcasting from the Blanchistan Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
According to the Nerd Index, you should be upside down in a junior high toilet around the clock.
This is Sparta!
All your base are belong to us.
It's a trap 9000!
Stop corrupting all of us.
Leave Benny alone!
Leroy Dragon!
The balls are inert.
And now it begins.
Hello and welcome to Nerd to Know Media on Phoenix 92.5 FM. My name is Kieran Calicorn and joining us this week...
It's me, Brian. I'm back again.
And me, Dara O'Connor. What's up? How's everybody?
Surviving.
Yeah.
I am, man. It's been... oh, God. Existing is like this. It's just this never-ending thing, isn't it? Just every week.
Well, it's not never-ending. It ends, Brian.
Yeah, but it feels like it never ends. Is the problem.
Oh God,
it's like falling through a bottomless pit, and then someone's going, "There is a bottom to this," and you're like, "What?" Boom, like.
I don't know, man. You know, like, look, I've been playing a lot of Terminator Resistance, and I finally finished it today before we went on. And I don't know, man. I'm kind of pumped by that, like, post-apocalyptic world, like. You know, it's
you're looking forward to it, are you?
Yeah, well, you know, if it has synth music and I get like a plasma gun, I'm like, yeah, man, this is rad. Like,
yeah, I'll have to remember, like, that's like the heavy metal version of what the apocalypse will look like. It probably won't be that rad.
See, that's the thing, and then I'll be bummed out. I'll be like, it's Star Wars all over again, you know?
Like you have to remember, we're living in a cyberpunk dystopia, and it's nowhere near as cool as what cyberpunk's dystopia is.
Hold on a minute, we are, but we're like, we don't even have the cool technology where everything is slightly green.
Yeah.
And everyone's walking around in trench coats. It's like, it's just this kind of lame 1984 dystopia without all the cool stuff.
There's no rampant transhumanism going on.
Well, there is. Look, Elon Musk is doing the best that he can. It's taken a while.
Well, I mean, it is a bit Blade Runner-y, all our phones and fashion and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
no,
it kind of is. But see, look, I'm for anyone who knows me, I'm a retro future. I love me old tech, okay? Yeah. And my favorite future of the whole lot is like where everything is like basically looks like it comes from the 1980s. Like that's the future I want, right?
So you're not talking about like by 1969, man will have several colonies on the moon, that kind of.
Oh yeah. Oh no, it will, but everything will have like cool like CRT screens. And there'll be a slight green hue to everything, and there's Linux terminals everywhere. That's my future that I want, right? So I'm kind of
reckless abandon for cable management.
Exactly. So I'm kind of bummed out that we've gone the other way, where everything's just like horribly dystopian, and it's not even cool because everything is just slightly bland.
Yeah,
you know.
I don't know. I like having phones and apps and being able to record things and put them on Spotify and all that kind of stuff. The future ain't that bad.
No, it's like, I mean, now it's like, again, it's like it's a like I never thought a dystopia could be this bland. You know, like, you know, it's like I'm angry, but I don't really know what at is kind of like is the general mood.
Yeah, fight the power, but you're not sure what the power is or what you do if you caught it or whatever. You know, you're just kind of like, well, I have the internet, so that's something, right?
I'll fight the power right after this cat gif.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? I have Lil Cats and Netflix, so it's not so bad.
Yeah.
I don't know, Dara. I see you waking up one day and you're going to get your post-apocalyptic future. It's going to be like a load of porgs armed with laser guns coming over the hills. And you'll get your synthy music, but it won't be what you hoped for.
Yeah.
One can only hope. Kane. You know, it's like, look, at the end of the game in Terminator, it's basically setting up. For this game that nobody wanted and that nobody was expecting to be good is the most satisfying Terminator experience I've had in decades, right? It wraps everything up nicely. it feels like Terminator. You have a grand old time, and at the end of it, you literally you're leading the attack from John Connor on the Skynet mainframe with awesome plasma weapons, and you're like, "This is the coolest thing ever. Where have you been all my life? And why is nobody telling me?" Can people just please buy this Terminator game so we get a sequel to it, or so the lads won't be on the dole, because they did a great job. Help the guys out, come on.
I just need these Terminators queuing up at the post office for their dole money, like the big metal ones.
Oh man, you know, you got to think about it, 'cause they put a lot of time into this, and nobody was expecting it to be good, and that's everyone's reaction. Like even Jim Sterling and stuff was like, "This game is so good. Why is this game so good?" And nobody can understand why, because apparently they made some like terrible tripe for the past couple of years, except for this one specific. Now, to be fair, right, there's dogs and stuff in it, and the doggos are cool, but they look really weird because they're not rendered properly. So it's a very ugly looking game. But man, you know, there's bits where you're just in it, and there's loads of stealth because you can't kill a Terminator with like a shotgun. They only die from plasma weapons. So if you run out of plasma, and you do at some points, you have to hide, and you have to be inventive with like tricking them on mines and stuff, because you know they're Terminators. So yeah, it's great. I love it. I think it's the best thing since Terminator 2. So.
Wow, that is high praise.
Not really, man. Everything since Terminator 2 has been bad.
Yeah, it's a bit more of a damning combination of everything that's involved.
Exactly. That's a more accurate kind of description of it. But yeah, no, definitely. I know I talked about it last week, but I completed it this week, and I spent a lot of time in it. It's great. It's so good. But yeah, like, you know, if the world has to end, I would rather it be there where, you know, we get cool plasma guns and stuff, rather than the blandness and nothing. Or Blade Runner. If you get a Blade Runner future with transhumanism and stuff, yeah, man, that's rad too. But yeah.
Really, have you seen Blade Runner? I think the whole point of both Blade Runner movies is that the future is awful, isn't it?
Of course it is, but it's still cool looking. Our current future is no better.
Welcome to sci-fi. This is what happens. It's like
we were told how bad the future's going to be. We just picked the wrong option. We didn't get like a Star Trek future where we're off in the stars. It's like, no.
Yeah,
that's just, you know,
like Star Wars is like one of the very few like iterations of humanity's future that's like overwhelmingly positive about how it's.
Well, and even now, Picard is starting to kind of slant that towards that has anti-AI, anti-synthetic people type Blade Runner-y things in it now.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, you know. Apparently, they were all. That's a very common kind of trope, you know. Even like with the Matrix and stuff, being like, you know, you got to watch out for AI because you know, it's going to mess with you.
Oh God, Terminator and the Matrix franchises that had so much potential, you know.
Well, they still do, just in the right hands, you know. Like I would, you know, gladly defend the Matrix to the death, really. But it's just it just lost. Yeah, I love the Matrix series and franchise. It's amazing. It's the most untapped of the whole lot. It's just money gone away.
I think that's for the benefit of it. I mean, like outside of like the Animatrix and the first Matrix film, I really don't want to ever see anything related to the Matrix franchise ever again. I think the last two films just like
it should have been one movie.
Yeah, and I wouldn't like. Well, I wouldn't say that they're meritless. It's like, I mean, I know for the second one, I just felt like every action set piece just went on like so much longer than was even necessary.
Yeah, I've felt the soundtrack. Every piece of music is like 8 minutes long because all the action scenes are all that long.
Although here's the thing, the soundtrack for the Matrix, the second Matrix, is absolutely pumping.
It's so good, but like,
yeah, you have a great time. You're like, this is so cool. But like, look, the Matrix franchise is unique because it wasn't because of a lack of vision or because it was bad. It was purely for greed because they had nothing else.
Yep.
And they're like, let's just bleed, destroy, and screw everything. And they did. Like, if they had just had the Matrix 1,
the
Animatrix, by the way, Ken, if they had the Matrix 1, the Animatrix, and then what was Matrix 2 and 3 as one movie, I don't think people would be upset. but it's because
No,
they were
no,
like,
not
let's
at all.
just, you know,
I don't think they would either. I think like, I think a huge. I think it's just very much a case of like, with the way that like those films played out, and with all the kind of surrounding stuff like the Enter the Matrix game and even Path of Neo, it just put a bad taste in people's mouths for the franchise.
I thought the Enter the Matrix game was great, actually. Like, I mean, they filmed original scenes. They could hack it. You could hack the game on PlayStation. Like, that's a great feature.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
It's an incredibly unwieldy game to play now, though.
There's no doubt about it. But still, like, as an experiment, it's great.
Well, here's the thing. With the Enter the Matrix was my first experience using, like, a DOS command line. Because that's what the hacking feature is, and it's quite cool. And as like a 12, 13-year-old doing that, that's out of this world, like really unique. You know, I do think the Path of Neo got really good. Like it was probably the game that people were expecting. I know it was the game that I was expecting in Enter the Matrix. But again, why was the Enter Matrix bad? Because it was rushed out for money. You know, if they had just let it chill, it would have been fine. But to be fair, what the Wachowski siblings did, where they had this like complete marketing blitz where you got the movies and the games, that was so ahead of its time that absolutely. I can't help and be like, man, that was cool.
But it was like them and Lord of the Rings that were like were so on everything for marketing.
Yeah,
and like.
And don't forget, the Star Wars prequels are around that time as well. Like,
no,
no. To be fair, you couldn't turn for Star Wars like in the years. Like, I mean, we've talked about that before with all the video games and that kind of stuff around that time.
Star Wars is a different animal.
Yeah.
Like, the Matrix films were released within 6 months of each other. Lord of the Rings movies were in 12 months of each other.
Correct.
Whereas the Star Wars
was an event,
had way more time and were treated a bit more like an individual
event.
But okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Like what I will say is, right. Sorry for interrupting you, Bryn, but I have to get the point out because it's to eat me alive. I remember being in school, and when Lord of the Rings came out, right, it was I was in first year, and that's when the first game came out. The first movie came out. And then it was a big thing. Like, we had read the books and stuff like that as well, so we were into it. But it was like a culturally relevant thing for about 3 years, right? And then it just went away. The Matrix is kind of the same thing, where it was a huge culturally relevant thing for the first movie. Everybody kind of gave up after the second movie, and then it limped its way back in the third one. But there was enough there to be satisfied in it if you were a fan, and that's where you get the Enter the Matrix and stuff like that. When Star Wars was released, the only one that I remember like flopping like a turd was Attack of the Clones. Everyone was like, what the hell is that? But that said, well, the movie flopped. The animated series was there. The Cartoon Network series was there as well. So
the Samurai Jack looking one, watching that again, that's great. Like
that I love that series. But that came out as well, and these were all things that kind of added to it and always kept it like an event. And then eventually it went away after the last series was there. Exactly, Revenge of the Sith. But even still, when the Star Wars movie came out, you knew a Star Wars movie was coming out. Lord of the Rings got close to that near the end.
It's a different animal, though, because like the Lord of the Rings films were like, it wasn't so much like the Fellowship of the Ring wasn't built as like a cinematic event. It was built as part one of the cinematic event.
Yes,
no film is on its own a cinematic event. The three of them together is the event. And it's kind of the same thing that happened the same way, like the Matrix treated itself the same way with its sequels. And Star Wars kind of was like, each film is on its own a cinematic event, because that's kind of how they've always been. They've always been these kind of big, like, for lack of a better word, blockbuster events that you're going to see, and you're not going to see anything like this for quite some time. Even if it is only like 3 or 4 years, that's still how they want people to think about it. And that's the way that they go with that. They started doing stuff like having the more video games coming out than God can produce, and having the Clone Wars animated series, because that's like because that was their way of supplementing it and kind of just keeping it in the popular culture. But it's not. I mean, like the reality is the fact of the matter is when it comes to stuff like the Lord of the Rings films, like they've changed how films are marketed from a fundamental level, because like the people were hyping up Lord of the Rings for about 6 months before it even released.
And you can see that if you go back and look at some of the stuff from that time period as well.
Yeah, like there was no film during that period that was giving away DVDs of the trailer in newspapers. Lord of the Rings had that. I remember it because I remember watching it in like a terrible QuickTime player. Like,
oh Lord,
yeah, I remember going to the Lord of the Rings website and trying to track down the trailer and like all these little making of things. My memory of Lord of the Rings is not just that hype, but it also people really wanted to get into how it was made and how it was like cast and all that kind of stuff. And that exploded with like those big, like also, 6 DVD box sets and things, you know?
Yeah. Also, one of the things that's worth pointing out as well about The Matrix and Lord of the Rings, they have the exact same producer in Barry Osborne.
Really?
Yes.
That actually doesn't.
I didn't know that.
That doesn't shock me at all. It's because there's a lot of very similar feel to those movies. Actually, now that you mention it, because they're very of their time. Like I think if Lord of the Rings came out now, as it was, I don't think it would have been as successful.
Oh well, Lord of the Rings, if it came out now, would have been a lot more micromanaged.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. They wouldn't have just handed Peter Jackson a blank check and said, "Hey, go off to New Zealand and come back."
Yeah. So like the thing with though, like Lord of the Rings is like a really like I've watched all the appendices, so that's where I get all the information from. Yeah. Like it's such an interesting thing because originally it was supposed to be done by Miramax.
Yeah,
and Miramax wanted the whole thing to be one singular film,
which would have been terrible.
Yeah, and like they had to fight to get it to 2 because they're like, there's just no way to do justice to this 1,000-page book in one film. And Miramax was like, fine, 2 films. And then for whatever reason, the agreement just fell through, and they just couldn't get Miramax just wouldn't front the money for it, so they had to shop around again. And then they took it to New Line, who had been, especially in the late 90s, have been developing a bit of a reputation for taking chances and stuff. Even though like the person who commissions their stuff could be a bit of a nightmare to pitch to, because he has a really good poker face, so you just don't really know what he's going to say. And they gave him the pitch for the 2 films, everything like that. And then he was like, who in their right mind would want to see a 2-film version of Lord of the Rings? Which, they're going, because again, like he's a stone-faced person, so they're like, what the hell does that even mean? And they're just kind of like waiting and hoping he's going to say something else. And then he just went, it has to be 3 films. Completely changes it. But like, I mean, you look at how The Hobbit turned out.
Yeah.
Versus Lord of the Rings, and you get your very clear answer of how a more modern version of Lord of the Rings would have been.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, I mean, like Lord of the Rings is one of those films where it's like it changed everything, and in ways people don't really appreciate. And there's never, well, I'm not going to say there's never going to be a film like it, but it's going to be a very long time before you see a film where a studio puts that level of trust in a creative team to get the job done. Because that film, like those films, it's crazy. You're very, very rarely will you see a film that's going, so in 15 months we're going to make 3 films with the same crew and the same cast. And they're going to hang on. So principal photography is going to be 15 months for 3 films. Are you insane? And they're going to, how much are we going to be spending for digital? Oh, we're going to do minimal digital. We're going to try and do as much stuff as B-movie quality as possible. What? And like, it just wouldn't happen now. It's going to be so weird.
But even still, like, the way movies are made then, and at the time, digital effects weren't where they were. Yeah. And we have to thank George Lucas, really, for his progression of that. For better or worse, we wouldn't have the Marvel movies be what they are without George Lucas's and ILM. Like, that's just a fact.
Well, I mean, who did Tron as well? Because they're a big part of this.
Oh yeah, they did. And pretty much any movie that you like that has amazing effects, ILM are involved in it directly.
Oh yeah, of course. But actually, just to talk more about the way
was Weta, who aren't affiliated at all. But yeah.
Sorry, Kane, what are you saying?
Not at all. Sorry for cutting across you. But I was going to say, you brought up the point that, like, they made 3 films and they essentially made them together. That changed the way, like, because after that you have Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3 being made together. You have, like, the Hunger Games. I think pretty much all 3 of them being made together. Whereas before, you would have made one film, you saw how it did, and if it did well, you'd commission a sequel. Then, now, I think possibly still to this day, like with the Marvel films, now the dumb model is you make 2 or 3 of them at once and roll them out as a series, and then see if you want 3 more. Like, that came from Lord of the Rings. Like,
it's more like TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Like movies became TV in a sense, the way they're made, and now they're literally TV, where the best movies can't hold a candle to TV, and that we saw that then with movies with projects like Game of Thrones up until the wheels fell off it. It was going across the thing where this is the new TV, and it's better than TV, and then they just completely lost interest, and they've ruined what was probably the best TV show ever made. And I thought, look, and I say that as somebody who isn't, like, here's the thing, I worked on Game of Thrones. I'm in Game of Thrones a fair bit. I'm not a huge Game of Thrones fan, like, at all.
Yeah.
Really? We've talked about it a few times in this show.
Yeah, man, but that's just been I'm a fan of it. Like, it's I like it. I don't hate it, but I'm not a fan, So it's kind of, I can only imagine the devastation for somebody who is a fan to be like, oh, man, you ruined my favorite show.
I remember saying, I don't know if I said this on the show before, but like, way back when in another life, I aspired to be an engineer for a podcast, and like I applied to work as a studio engineer for the production company who makes Lord of the Rings, or not Lord of the Rings, sorry, Game of Thrones. And I was like, I remember applying to them, and then went, crap, I better watch that show now. At that point, they just finished season 5. Like, season 5 had just finished airing, so I just kind of binged season 6 finished. I just kind of binged the first 6 seasons in about as many days, and like I just came out of it going like, it's a good show, but I mean, like, it's one of those things where like I think I absolutely understand. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say like even if season 8 did turn out really, really well, I still wouldn't be going, oh, it's the best show ever made, because there's some really good shows that are like equally, that like, even if it did come out really well, are equally up for that title.
Yeah, but you have to think about stuff from a normie perspective. Like, Game of Thrones was a cultural touchdown up until it wasn't, which I think is amazing. Really, like, it really is. It was one of the points that everyone was talking about it. And look, I read the books as far as I could, because obviously they're not finished. I remember I was working on the 3rd season, and I was the only one on set who had read the books. But they're all fans of the show. I'm like, I never watched an episode of the show, and I didn't watch it until like season 5 when I started actually watching it.
That's a bad place to start.
No, well, I finished. I was on season 5 as well, and I'm like, I'll go back and I'll watch me in it, and then I'll go back and watch it again. And I was like, oh, crazy! This is wild, So I just remember going from being that kind of tippy top must see TV to just being something that everybody was disappointed in, and But that said, it did change. It did kind of fulfill that prophecy of movies becoming TV, and TV's where you go. So now we have it with, people will rather sit and binge or watch Netflix than go to the movies, or, even with Star Wars now, the future of it really looks like it's going to be on TV. It's going to be on Disney Plus rather than in theaters, which is crazy. But it's just one of those things that if we had have went like a little bit differently, this wouldn't have happened. But if all the stuff that we've talked about also didn't happen, it would be somewhere completely different. And it's just an interesting thought experiment to think, wow, 10 years ago. Well, think about it. 10 years ago, right? 2010. You know, the internet was what it was. I think I was doing a podcast then. I just started doing podcasting properly in 2010. But the internet wasn't great. You know, it was okay. We didn't have streaming services.
We had YouTube, but that's about it really for streaming. So.
Yeah, and that was limited to like 15 minutes.
Yep.
So you're sitting there going, okay, the world had developed in such a way to facilitate this, but it's also a whole brave new world kind of things as well. So, you know, but the knock-on effect of that is when it comes to old Hollywood and movies, they're so micromanaged because they're like, we're losing so much ground, and that's why there's so much micromanagement. Now we've seen it now with like movies like I know you guys make fun of me for bringing up Star Wars all the time, but I don't want to.
To be fair, I brought it up first on this one. I'll take the fall for that. We mentioned porgs earlier.
Fair, but even with you know, what we've seen now, Birds of Prey or whatever, and it's a movie that's not out yet. I want to see it, but the marketing tries to appeal to everybody. And be as safe as possible, but in the meantime appeal to nobody. And that's something that we're really seeing the desperation of Hollywood with. So, you know, will it get better?
It's funny though,
because
like it's really funny because like we're seeing, it seems like anything, like the only times that like films are given any kind of freedom to do anything with is if they're going to be made cleverly and cheaply, like with Joker. Or they're given a huge budget because they know there's going to be a solid return of investment on it, like in Avengers. But the reason, I mean, I think with the Marvel ones, like the anomaly because the films are over, like they're popular with just about, they're popular enough that it's like, you know, we can give people the free reign that they need to make this work. There's a level of carefreeness about it. It's probably the same thing with. I think with it's probably one of the reasons why the Into the Spider-Verse film turned out so well was that they kind of
just left them to it.
They left them to it, but I don't think they were going. Like I think they're going. This is going to be a hit because it's a Spider-Man film.
Yeah,
and you know we'll give it the budget that it needs to be a decent animated film, but we don't really need to worry about it so much. It's not like. It's not like Morbius where they made a real conscious effort to make sure they had Michael Keaton at the end of the trailer.
Yeah, so you draw the line, don't you?
You know, like, I mean, like, again, like that's like probably a pretty nice little moment from that film. But they had to do that to get people to go and see it.
But see, they did that before as well. Where like we saw that with the Zenith again with Amazing Spider-Man 2, where that whole movie was spoiled in the trailers and existed to set up an expanded universe that we wouldn't get.
Yep.
We wouldn't get until literally it changes hands and kind of and then not only changes hands, but they start like aping stuff from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that's something that we will be talking about when we know more about it. Like I'm excited to see Morbius, but I'm also kind of excited to see what a train wreck this is going to be for the MCU. Because I'm going to make a prediction here. The MCU is going to go off the rails in its current state in about 3 years.
Oh, that's probably a pretty good prediction. Like, I mean, again, we've talked about this before. Like, before this, the longest trend in cinematic history was westerns. It lasted 13 years.
Yeah, but I think it would have run its course naturally anyway in that sense. But what I mean in this sense is the main thing about the MCU, right? It was that it felt like a comic book universe in the sense that X, Y, and Z happened, so we had a continuity that you could work with, right? If you take that continuity away from one central planning, you start getting what happened with the DCU.
Oh, I see what you mean. So it's like kind of Sony is kind of like the hole in the water balloon or something like that.
Correct, yeah, because like already we saw it in a very small sense. I know some people are going to be like, oh, you're being nitpicky. Well, yeah, we're nerds. That's what we do.
But, welcome to the show.
Exactly. But if you remember correctly, at the beginning of Homecoming, the dates were wrong.
Yeah.
And that was a very, very small thing, but that set back the MCU like 2 years in reality, and you had to change all around, and that was literally just the first scene of the first movie that involved Sony. So imagine now at this point, where they can do pretty much whatever they want inside their own movies, but it's still tangentially linked to this MCU thing.
Yeah.
That's opening up Pandora's box. Now, look, I think that's a cool way of doing things. I'm excited that we're getting more Spidey because Spidey's cool. But when your whole success is tied into a fluid, realistically defined universe where everything has consequences and makes sense to an extent, you're really playing with fire. So 3 years, if it won't be the TV shows that are going to be on Disney Plus, it will be the Sony thing that will really start to hurt the MCU.
Well, on that, actually, have you seen the what's it called? They call it the Big Game trailer that went out this week. What did you think? We got a little look at, I say a very little look at the Winter Soldier and Falcon series, the Scarlet Witch and Vision series, and Loki. Like, do you think they're kind of putting their feet right as far as those 3 projects specifically?
I have a lot to say, but I'm going to let Bryn go first.
Okay.
We did not get a chance to watch them, so...
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Do you want to wing it?
How can you win? I'm just like, of all the things.
You guys go first, and I will do a quick look on my side here.
It's a shame that on radio you can't put up one of those like kind of title card things while you're just like for 30 seconds.
Oh, that's brilliant!
Like one of those Monty Python and like in the Holy Grail type things.
Yeah, get that.
Well, then I'll do my thoughts first. Then
okay.
I was pleasantly surprised by what little I saw, mostly in the Vision and Scarlet Witch one, because they seem to be pitching it as like a proper 1950s, 60s kind of one of those throwbacks in a nice house type thing. They've got her in the classic costume from the comics, and then also in the sort of 50s fashion. So
everything but me.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, I'm not sure if that was planned or not, but that's the first 2 seconds if you're intrigued listening at home. Yeah, so that one seems to have a lot of personality about it, which I'll always rate. The Winter Soldier one looks kind of in the same vein as the Captain America Winter Soldier film. More of that. That's grand. And Loki, there just isn't really enough to say yet, but it's Loki. People will turn up. What do you think, Dara?
I am on the same kind of wavelength as you. I really liked what I saw of WandaVision. I was like, I fell in love with Wanda for the first time. I was like, oh wow, she's absolutely stunning. And I never noticed that before until, this too. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm intrigued to see what they do. I think a lot more clarity of that will come when we have the Doctor Strange sequel.
Yeah.
Because that's dealing with the multiverse and stuff like that. So what I think is happening there, they're hinting, I don't think it'll be as straightforward as a Leave It to Beaver kind of show,
No.
I think that's just kind of something that they'll touch on where it's like, this is a multiverse or it's a facsimile or something, But it's the most unique way I think I've seen something like this being marketed, so I'm really interested in that. Winter Soldier and Falcon, I'm like, okay, I don't have anything particularly against them, but I don't care. Like, realistically. I just don't. I'm like, I don't like, okay. And Loki, it's like, I think that'll be fun. Like Dr. Zemo or Baron Zemo is in Winter Soldier, and I think that'll be pretty cool. But again, it depends what they do, because they kind of did everything they could with him without going full on comic. So if they go full on comic, then it could bring me back. But disrespect to the two lads in the series, but I don't find them strong enough to be able to hold that kind of like top tier. And this is the problem that a lot of the new MCU is going to have, because it feels like their B squad is out, and none of them have done anything really to be like, this is, we're here now. This is
well, that's why they're relegated to TV, isn't it?
Yeah, but see,
welcome back.
It shouldn't feel that way, right? And I think that's the biggest problem. You shouldn't feel like, oh, I'm watching something that's of lower quality, because if you think about it, it's the obverse of what we're getting with Star Wars, where The Mandalorian is the show to watch and everything else is just a horrible, horrific nightmare that never ends.
Well,
actually, I'm going to contradict you there, Dar, because I actually feel the opposite. My favorite Avengers were always Vision and Scarlet Witch, and I always found it frustrating that even though the films were done as well as they could, they had this big crowd of characters that just for economic reasons could never really get center stage. Like Hawkeye, it took until Avengers 4 for him to get some decent material to play with. So if they pick their characters carefully, I think it's a good opportunity to give, because Elizabeth Olsen's a really talented actor. She's been in fantastic things. So I think if they do it right, it's an opportunity to kind of make the universe feel bigger and more lived in, and that is something The Mandalorian does to Star Wars, and arguably much better than the films,
Yeah, but there's always the risk that it could go with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. route, where it just kind of gets built up into something that just ultimately feels redundant when all you're kind of doing is going.
Yeah, that's fair.
Something that's supplementary to the films, and you're giving me all this other stuff to pay attention to now, and then becoming a supplementary work then just becomes a very tacked on work and doesn't feel supplementary anymore. Again, the first couple of seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. absolutely are supplementary, but then they kind of lose the rag of what it's supposed to be, and that's always going to be a concern with any of these shows. The reality is, for me anyway, I'd be very interested to see what happens with the Loki and Captain America Winter Soldier shows, because I think they would be interesting, but it just depends what they do with them.
You know what it feels like?
Yeah.
It feels like when there's the main series of a comic, right?
Yeah.
And then you buy the spin-off. That's kind of what it feels like, where you get a really good spin-off and then you get some lesser ones. And that's what I kind of mean, Keen. I love Vision and Wanda. I think they're great. It's cool to see them getting kind of a good shake of the stick. I do think, we'll see their characters like that as well. I think a Spider-Man series would be much better on TV than as a movie. If you got a 10-part Spider-Man series of him literally just being Spider-Man in New York, would be a really cool way of going about it. But that's what this feels like. And obviously it's to kind of carry people over while they're working on rebuilding the MCU, because there's nothing really they could do now that would be what are you going to do? They had to make it small. They really had to make it small. And that's what they're doing. And I think it's smart. It's a really good way of doing things. But I'm also just is this oversaturation? That's my problem. How much comic book stuff, and I love comics, right? So everybody please calm down. I love comics, but I'm how much of this is too much? And I think having 3 series, a bunch of movies is, it's like always said with The Matrix, it's cool, but eventually it reaches a saturation point, and that's kind of what I fear. So I think we're coming to the end of Marvel fever pitch, but we're not there just yet.
Yeah, but I always go back to Westerns as the example, because it's the only thing you can really compare it to in terms of its fever pitch. And even with these shows, it's still never going unless Disney goes absolutely ape, it's never going to be as oversaturated as Westerns were. You would have we get what about maybe 6 superhero films a year now. Yeah, you would at the height of its popularity, you were getting you would get somewhere as much as 20 Western films a year.
But see, it was getting to that point, Bryn. Remember, everyone wanted to have their own cinematic universe.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying though. It's you were getting as much as 20 Western films in a year. You also only had during the height of the Westerns, you only had something I think 6 channels in the US, and all of them were carrying at least one Western TV show in a primetime slot.
That's a good point.
westerns were so much more pervasive than the superhero will ever be. And again, like that's unless DC and Warner Brothers decide to go absolutely ham, and like even then, they're not all the TV channels in America.
Actually, can I just say on that they kind of did. It's just they're so bad that people just kind of forget. Like, I love Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's my favorite comic series of all time. I have all the original issues, in very good condition. I have a full collection. I've bought the series several times. It's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life, and I hope everyone involved has a very bad career as a result, or at least
they haven't,
or at least feels bad about what they've done.
They probably won't.
Well, they do now. You've just said it to them.
But there you go. You made a bad series and you should feel bad. You even made Kevin Conroy, like the new Finn.
Yeah.
Mr. Cookman.
They won't. Sorry, Darren.
Jesus.
No, they won't.
What? What happened?
They won't feel bad.
They should, though. They should, though.
They should, but they won't.
Yeah.
Greg Berlanti's on a tear to make almost everything he touches seem like it could and should be good, but probably won't be.
Here's what I'll say, just in defense of Marvel, in regards to the Western comparison. I think I may have said this on the show before, but I think Marvel within itself, it has a style, but all of its films and series are different genres. So what I'm hoping Marvel will be going forward is it'll be like that sort of video game Star Wars boom you had in the early 2000s, where you could just pick if you wanted to play this or pick if you wanted to watch that, and it didn't matter too much if you missed other things. Like you could play Star Wars Bounty Hunter, but not necessarily Battlefront. Unlike, say, the Netflix Marvel thing, where you had to watch all 10 to get to the big thing or all that kind of stuff. I'm hoping that's the model they'll use, because if they try the Infinity Gauntlet thing again too soon, then that will oversaturate it too much.
See, but they have said that everything is essential to watch. And that's my concern, because but
they would say that, wouldn't they?
Well, see, that's my concern, right? Because even going back to reading comics, like event books, no one really reads all the event books, because a lot of them are terrible.
Yeah.
But if you have someone to read, for example, in Crisis of Infinite Earths, right? Now, when I say I'm a fan of it, I literally have all the random tie-in books where there's like a tiny little patch of the monitor, and it's in GI Commando or whatever, So or Ghost Tank and all that kind of stuff, So this is what I mean. You can pick up those stuff and get more out of it. I think that's a much more attractive way of doing things than you must watch all these shows, because if you don't watch shows, you're gonna miss out on a huge plot point. Because that encourages two things: one, laziness, because people just aren't going to do that. And two, disinterest, because they feel like they've been backstabbed. Like, why would you spend €20 going to the cinema when you can just read the Spark Notes online? And that's what I mean. It's just it's not a smart way of going. But I think the guys in Marvel, obviously, they know what they're doing.
Yeah,
they have paid the big bucks for it. So I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah, it could turn out really, really well, but it's just hard to know at this point. Well,
that's worth saying in and of itself. This level of success is relatively unprecedented.
The precedent that has been set is like it does have distinctions with it. Like when it comes to how prevalent Marvel films are, and I know people do go on and say like it's so oversaturated. But in the confines of what there is, they're going like, oh, there's so many superhero TV shows. It's like, yeah, but they're carried by like 2 channels. Like CW does all the Warner Brothers superhero films or superhero shows, and that's it. And then for Disney, that's pretty much like for Disney stuff. That's like Disney XD, and then there's nothing live action on ABC or any of the other ones. So yeah, 2 channels out of hundreds now.
Oh, yeah, like you can watch, like I don't even watch TV. As I said, the main thing I've started watching really out of, I don't know, man. Like I hate reality TV shows, but I'm really enjoying one specific show, and it's great. And you know, I don't even know why it's good. I just enjoy it. And it's Undercover Boss USA.
Is this real? I know you mentioned this before. Is this a real show?
Yeah, it's fucking. Oh, sorry. It's great. You know, like, sorry. Basically, the concept. Like, I didn't think it was real either until the Kylo Ren thing. And when you watch the show, the Kylo Ren thing becomes funnier because it's so like the show. And basically, what happens is they get a CEO from like a company. Like the last one I watched, there was the CEO of Yankee Candle. Right.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was quite good. And what they do is they put them into different parts of their organization. So, like in a store, or they take them to, like, it's over a week. So, over a store, and then they go to like a production environment and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, you know, just trying to get an insight into their company, right? That's the premise. And it's quite interesting, really, watching it. But it does kind of ham it up a bit because everyone has a sob story. It's like, oh my God, my dog got hit by my 7 kids and we're losing our house. And you're like, listen, there's no, you know, it's hammed up a little bit. But the actual show itself, the premise of it's quite good. And like, morbidly, I really enjoy the lads that really mess up. Like, there was some lad, and he's like working in Yankee County. He's like, I hate it here. This is just a paycheck for me. And your man is and the CEO is devastated. And he's just like, oh, I have to let you go because you're not here. And he goes, what? This is not my fault. I don't like it here. And it's like just that kind of stuff is just great.
Oh, he actually gets let go, like.
Oh, so loads of people get let go. Yeah, so
that's harsh.
Yeah, but then, you know, the ones that have the sub story or that work well get like 20 grand or something from them, you know.
You know, in my shop, they have to warn you if like a mystery shopper is coming in. That is not on.
Yeah, well, see, the cover is that it's they think they're on another TV show. They're on
okay.
So they kind of get around that way. But to be fair, you know, it is what it is. And again, how much of this is actually like real is kind of up.
Yeah, of course.
But the actual concept of it, you wouldn't once you binge like 1 or 2 seasons of it, you kind of get a bit, you know, used to the formula. But that's the first thing I've watched in a while where I'm like, you know what, this is actually not bad. So, and it makes the Kylo Ren thing so much more funny because they actually nail it really well.
Key and Peele also did a Undercover Boss one that's also really, really good if you haven't seen it.
Oh, really? I haven't seen it. I'll watch it.
Yeah, definitely do. Like, yeah, I remember seeing people talk about like Undercover Boss shows they would like episodes they'd love to see done. Naturally, one that came up pretty quickly was Vince McMahon.
Oh, that'd be great.
People were But people were saying like the only reason why that wouldn't be good is because there's no way in hell Vince McMahon could hold in who he actually is.
No way.
I do. Like
I know nothing about wrestling. I know about bloody Vince McMahon. Like,
to be fair, like some of them are great. Where like the lads who, you know, they just lose it. And they're like, I can't deal with this anymore. I have to reveal who I am. And then they do, and he absolutely rails some dude out of it. Yeah. So it's... But
could you just imagine, like, a Vince McMahon one where someone sneezes, they go, like, hi, and someone sneezes, and then Vince just loses it straight away.
See, that's the appeal of the show. Like, the ones that I find really boring are the ones where they complete it without incident. I'm like, no, come on.
Yeah, of course.
You know, because while I was while I was working through Terminator, I had it on. And I was just like, you know, have Terminator on one screen and looking at Undercover Boss, you know. So definitely, guys, you know, I know it's a weird recommendation, particularly from a show like this, but you'll have a good time.
Where can we find it then?
Actually, it's on the All 4 app.
Really?
Yeah, the All 4 app is pretty weird, but
pretty great.
It is like it's the weirdest app ever because I got it when I was in Spain. So I could watch, what was it, Age of Apocalypse? And,
oh, yeah.
I came across an ad for Undercover Boss on Facebook, obviously, because I was posting about, you know, the SNL sketch.
Yeah.
And, it's like, oh, streaming now on all 4. I'm like, what? So, yeah, that's where you can watch it. For free.
Yeah.
It doesn't even cost you anything.
Oh, yeah. You know what's really annoying, right? So, like...
Just your time.
What's really annoying though, like out of all those streaming services, like there's All 4, which is great. There's like ITV have one and it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Again, also free.
Yep.
And then the only streaming service.
Let me guess.
That I know a lot of people want here, and you can't get it. The iPlayer from BBC.
Oh, no, so I thought you were going a different way with it. Well, you can, but it involves our good friend, Mr. VPN.
The secret.
I was going to say you're good to the theoretical.
Yeah.
No, our good friend, Mr. VPN.
Yeah.
Okay.
The secret ingredient is crime.
I thought you were going to say all the other ones are good, with the exception of the RTE player, which you get 7 ads for Kerrygold, and then it just doesn't play. You're like,
that was a thing for a long time. If you have ad blocker installed, it's still a thing. I couldn't watch the Eurovision on it. I remember that. Yeah.
But the thing to
what
remember
a sentence,
here,
Kane. What a sentence.
The thing to remember here is I don't count the RTE player as a player because that's too charitable to it. It doesn't play anything to be called a player. It's a player name only.
No, it does. It plays 7.
Well, you need to have things on RTE first. That's the trick.
I take offense to that, Bryn. It is a player. It's a player for 7 unskippable ads for Kerrygold in a row.
I don't count an ad player as a player.
But here's the thing, right? It's so incredibly terrible, despite the fact that we fund it and just bailed out RTE. And you're like, how is this still so bad, guys? Why can't you get your stuff together? What's going on?
Spending 2.5 hours watching one episode of Love Hate, because of that.
Okay, fair enough. Removing the ad blocker is okay. But here's the thing. The lads who coded it must have had enough self-awareness to scan for an ad blocker, yet they can't, understand how UDP works. It's like, come on, lads. What is going on? Yeah. Get your you-know-what together. Why are there
Are you making yourself available to fix it up for a fee, or...?
Yeah, okay, I'd fix it up, but then I'd be upset for having agreed to it, so...
Yeah.
I would ask for stock, but that's probably a bad thing.
You'd just be on the floor like Anakin Skywalker. What have I done?
No, if you got stock, it'd probably be like what was it? That bit in The Simpsons where it's like, it's not how much stock you have; it's how much copper wire you can get out of the building.
Yeah, that's it.
If it's copper wire you want, then RT is definitely the place to work.
There you go.
I don't know if I remember. I was given a tour, I was given a tour of it before, and I was told that they've had to raise the floor in the back room about 4 or 5 times to get new cables in there.
Oh wow! Is it just cables after cables?
But it's like stratified cables. They've got cables from the 70s they haven't replaced.
Oh wow!
For all the data and stuff going through. So it's, if you want copper, that's where you go.
There you go, lads. That's the retirement. I'm sure that's someone's retirement grease.
Definitely.
It's just like, no one's been here for years and nobody knows about it.
Yeah, it's among my favorite top tips about top facts about RT. That and the fact that it isn't actually properly HD.
What? They just trick everybody into
they boost the signal to make it HD.
Oh wow!
HD.
Oh man, only in Ireland. It's hilarious.
Just remember as well, this is a broadcast company that has more revenue streams than your typical broadcast company does, and yet this is how it operates. It's also
it's somewhat the only game in town though, because there's just TV3 and then TG4, which is specifically the Irish.
Hold on, because we're broadcasting, allegedly. For theoretical purposes, for educational purposes, and allegedly again. So, there we go.
Yeah.
All the provisos in the world.
Yeah. If you could, edit that into the conversation, 5 times throughout.
These are all allegedly unverifiable.
Everything I said about RPE, and we'll be fine.
Oh god! Sure.
Lads, I wouldn't mind working for RT at some point in the future. Do you mind if we swap into Sturcon talk?
Yeah. Okay. So from one disaster that isn't run properly to what's going to be an awesome, well-run event.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. I'm really excited about this. The lads and ladies who are running this are super cool. And you know what? It's great that they asked us to do a panel. I'm excited for the panel. And yeah, it's going to be great because, you know, it's got like a group therapy session, guys. I think that's what's going to happen.
Well, I think you should tell them what the pitch is, Dara. I feel like only you should tell them what
Only
the pitch
me?
is.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
The pitch is, well, we did call it a post-mortem of Disney Star Wars, but
Yeah.
it's more than likely going to be a group therapy session of Disney Star Wars. So we're going to have a doll, and it's going to be like, where did the bad man touch you?
It's really important. Really, really important that everyone knows that when they come in and they go to the panel, it's a very safe space, and everyone gets a chance to speak, and you know we'll get our feelings heard and listened to and acknowledged.
Exactly. Exactly. It's a safe space for everybody except for Kathleen Kennedy, who won an award last night.
And
so congratulations to her. And who?
And J.J. Abrams.
Oh, and J.J. Abrams. Poor J.J.
What are you going to say if they turn up?
I want my childhood back.
Yeah. I'll just point at the screen and go, "This was bad, and you should feel bad."
You should feel worse than the guys who made Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah.
Because this hurt more.
There was more writing on the films they made.
What I'm hoping is, I'm hoping for anyone who's a fan of the expanded universe to show up. Anyone who was a fan of the actual movies. So if you're a fan of Disney Star Wars, please come along because you're gonna be upset. But no, not really. I know if anyone is a fan of Disney Star Wars, still do come along anyway because we're going to try and make it as interactive as possible.
As we said, it is a safe space for opinions.
Yeah, no.
Even if you do like it, it's it's fine. We'll just vehemently disagree with you, and there may be shouting. But
oh yeah. Like, and we've been moved. We were initially on at 11 o'clock on Sunday, but now it's 2 o'clock on Sunday. So that's great. So that means we can actually like enjoy a bit of the panel, a bit of the con as well, guys. So I'm looking forward to that.
And we're going to have, in our next episode, we're actually going to have the creative team behind Shuricon on again. We're very excited for that. Woo! Because they are sound guys. We're not just saying that because they're our friends, but they are genuinely great to hang out with. Like,
great bunch of lads.
Great bunch of lads. The Shuricon, a great bunch of lads. Yeah.
Oh my God. They need to put on a t-shirt so we can have it.
I think we should, I'll put in a word with them. Like, I think I also want to give a shout out to Straight Outta Canto. I don't know if the time won't me, but she'll be doing a panel as well from our Nerd to Know media team.
Yep. I think hers is a little bit earlier than ours, though. I think.
Well, then that's great. You can go see both then.
Yeah, you can go see both, and then kind of after you're done, you can subscribe to the podcast and listen to those. Actually, her new show is coming out like this week, I think, and apparently it's all zombie related. So I'm excited.
Oh, I've listened to the first 2 episodes. It's a fantastic podcast. I did get a bit queasy on the second one because it's about like very horror-y things, but yeah, it was a great listen.
Man, Lisa gets so hardcore with her stuff. It's like class.
I know, but she's such a lovely kind of sweet person that when she's talking about it, you feel such conflicting emotions.
Yeah, you're like, this is horrific, but also like really good at the same time.
Yeah,
like a really cute stand-up, like a cute female stand-up. Do the most like vile and horrendous comedy, and you're just like, I'm laughing, but I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, like Wendy Schall in particular, he's like the voice of like Gravity Falls and all that kind of stuff. She does very kind of body humor and that kind of stuff, but the voice makes it funny.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Oh, wow. Good. Like if you haven't listened to it and you listen to our other shows, make it your business, check it out because they usually drop on Tuesday. Is when her shows usually go out, so it's nice in the middle.
And they're on Spotify on the same page as us.
They are, yeah. So if you're already subscribed to us, well, they're on everything. If you're on iTunes or anything like that, it's the same. But yeah, so that's my plugs. If you haven't got your ticket for Shuricon, do.
Yeah, it's 15th and 16th. We're on the 16th at 2 o'clock. I also want to give a shout out to Mannequin Blue, who's been on our show before. She'll be possibly hanging out with us on the panel. We're not sure, but she will be there. She's a balloon artist, and she is fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. Apparently, there's a surprise as well. She's going to be an unspecified Disney Star Wars character.
It will be. I will keep it a surprise for you. You're going to have to just see on the day.
Right, I'm excited. I can't wait. No, when I saw her as was a Rainbow Dash, I was like, that's pretty cool, man. You know?
Oh, that was great, but I didn't get to see her all day because she was just mobbed by people in the lobby for the whole thing, you know?
The amount of work that she goes through, and if anyone hasn't listened to the show that we had with her, where she talks about the process of that stuff, I'm like, that's class. So fair play.
Yeah.
What else?
I can drop one surprise on the Saturday when we're not doing the panel, but she'll be there. She will be possibly going as a Cubone from Pokemon.
Oh, class.
Oh wow, that's so
Can you imagine the balloon skull? Like,
I can, yeah, I can. One other plug that I have, other than buy Terminator Resistance, is BioShock. The whole series is free on PSN at the moment. So
what?
Yeah, if you're on PSN.
Serious?
Plus, yeah. So BioShock, I've been playing it the entire show. So if you are a fan of BioShock 1, 2, and Infinite, it's all free now if you're on PS Plus. And Sims 4. Sims 4 is also free. So
sorry, you're a fierce multitasker. I mean, I know you were talking earlier about watching the Undercover Boss and like playing the game at the same time, but like, how do you do that?
Oh man, it's just practice. Work in IT, you figure out how to do loads of things at once.
Yeah.
Isn't that right, Bryn?
Yeah.
You have to, man. You know, it's just the way it is. But yeah, like it's weird though. I playing games that way ruins them for me because I'm not fully invested. I'm kind of like, you know, for example, there were big emotional beats in Terminator that I missed because I was invested in Undercover Boss. So, I was like, yeah, man, you're getting your $10,000 because your mom is sick. That's cool. You know, you're a cool boss, you know. And then at the end of Terminator's, you know, killing your one, you're like, oh, all right. Well, I can't be there in both places, so fair enough.
Oh, fourth wall break. Katie has just messaged who she's going as in the Star Wars thing, and I'm excited. Dara, you may hate it.
Oh,
no. That's a clue.
Oh, no. Who would have hated?
Don't worry, it's not a balloon Kathleen Kennedy. You're grand.
That's what I was going to say. But guess it's going to be balloon Kathleen Kennedy. You beat me to it. I was just going to say the balloon Kathleen Kennedy. Oh wow!
I think if Derek would really hate on that scale is if she made a balloon frame by frame remake of the Disney Star Wars films.
Oh, like just like with like little like snapshots of the films, like.
Yeah,
like a storyboard.
Of a scene for scene remake of The Force Awakens, which is in fact a scene for scene remake of A New Hope. So it's just like, okay. Oh man. Anyway, guys, do you have anything to plug before we wrap up?
I did, and it slipped out of my brain. Bryn, you go first, and it might come back.
Literally have nothing to plug anymore.
In that case, we may have, I won't say a name yet just in case, but we may have some new people joining the Nerd to Know Media family. We will be plugging that a bit more in the next 2 weeks, but yeah, we are looking to expand. So Dara, let us know where people can find out all of our plans as we're going up on the social media and all that.
That's very cool. Yeah. So if you are looking to, the best way to reach us is to just go on to nerdtoknowmedia.com. From there, there's links to our social media. Nerd to Know Media on Facebook, Nerd to Know Media on Instagram, nerdtoknowmedia@gmail.com, Nerd to Know Media on Twitch, Nerd to Know Media on YouTube. Basically, you put that in, you're going to reach us. Best way to contact us is through our Facebook page or Instagram. And if you forget all that, nerdtoknowmedia.com, because it's going to expand, and that's great to hear as well, Keen. So, yeah, everybody, keep it here.
Yeah.
Excellent. Then from Nerd to Know Media, I've been Kieran Calcon. Thank you for joining us. Say goodbye, guys.
Bye.
Guys.
Hello and welcome to Nerd to Know Media on 92.5. Can I start again?
Box. Caught the ropes.
1 week, I'll get that right on the first go. Phoenix 92.5 FM.
It's alright, King. There used to be a wrestler called Sin Cara, and his entrance was he'd jump. He'd try to jump over the ropes, but every time he'd miss and hit the ropes, so they had to film it like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Did 20 takes, and that was the best one.
At some point, we'll also have to show you the glory that is the Shockmaster.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's
tragically funny.
Yeah. I'm glad you said you've kept it to an hour, because every week I tell Stevie, "Oh, I'll be back in an hour," and she goes, "No, you're not. It'll be 2." And then like she's put 10 quid in it tonight, and I quite fancy winning that 10 quid.
All right, but tell her the time starts from now, because I'm keeping it.
Yeah. No, as long as I'm back by 11, I get free coffee tomorrow.
Oh, nice. Okay, well, don't worry. I'll keep it to an hour.
We're gonna make a point of it today.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, hold on. Before we go, is Stevie on the panel? Because she has to be.
I'll ask her. Honestly, it depends on the baby's behaviour.
Baby can be on the panel too.
Yeah.
Like I don't mind.
Yeah.
I'm okay with like her chiming in.
Yeah, I'll get the Shercon lads to put out 3 extra chairs then. We'll invite Lisa, make it 7, have 2 people who've never seen Star Wars watching 3 or 4 people rage about it.
This is quite literally going to be group therapy, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is like I kind of think we could get the title changed to be, instead of being the post-mortem, just calling it group therapy over Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
the group therapy is when we start the weekly meetings.
I think my trauma with Star Wars began on.
The bad man touched me here.
Pointing to your heart.
Darth Vader was in a hallway.
No, but seriously, you need to get Stevie in on that. Like that just needs to happen. I'm quite insistent.
I'll tell her as soon as we're off the chat then.
Alright, okay, cool. But I need someone to be like more upset than me, so I just,
You'll
just
get that in
spades,
I promise you that much. Do you want us to bring our purple lightsaber as well?
Yeah, go for it.
It's so funny. Stevie keeps trying to play with it, but every time we turn it on, the noise makes the Baba cry. So she's got this like great Christmas present that's being held hostage by her firstborn.
Oh wow, that's like on purpose. Maybe she knows. She's like,
yeah. It's totally on purpose.
Disney Star Wars was too bad. You don't deserve to enjoy this. All right, okay, right. Let's back to you.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.